Welcome to Our Pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now we are going through the Murderbot Diaries. And we are covering Martha Wells' fourth book, her first official book in a novella
this is the fifth
series.
book.
Oh, it's the fifth book. I'm so sorry. It's the fifth book.
It's the first one that's not a novella.
But it's the first one that's not a novella. And it is called Network Effect of Murderbot Diaries.
And our would be an anagram, as Murderbot would.
Yes! Oh my God, I'm so glad you caught that when Murderbot is like, art stands for asshole research transporter.
It's an anagram.
And they're like, no,
it's not.
And Murderbot's like,
like,
there's too many words. There's too many words.
I don't have time for this. There's too many human words.
It's an acrostic, but
I immediately was like, oh God, it's an anagram.
It's an anagram. You're right, Murderbot. Good for you.
Love it.
But before we get into the anagram, Laura, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
Okay, so I watched the first episode of season 3 of The Mandalorian, and here's my problem, Hannah. I really liked it, and I shouldn't have just binged all of it at one time, the first 2 seasons, because then I watched the first episode and I was like, oh, I gotta wait a week. Oh, this really stinks. But when this episode comes out, I will probably have already watched the second episode of The Mandalorian.
You're not going to wait.
I'm not going to wait. I'll probably get up early and watch it while I'm heating up my bottles for my goats.
I love it.
Because I have been spoiled by streaming services and now I can't wait for TV to come out.
I'm so bad at that. Whenever I find out that like Abbott Elementary has a new episode, I'm like, I have to watch this immediately. And I'm like, Hannah, you have a life. Like you have so many other things you need to be doing besides watching Abbott Elementary.
I don't know how I used to live waiting week to week for TV shows, because now I just cannot do it. I am such a baby now that I want to watch the whole season at once.
So funny. Well, you're watching Mandalorian.
Yes, I watched that, and then I've just been like kind of rewatching Parks and Rec, and nothing new to report there. But I read Galatea by Madeline Miller. It's a short story based off of Pygmalion. And,
I love Pygmalion.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's told from the point of view of Galatea, and this is rough, but I feel like this is what I like about Madeline Miller, that she writes these Greek retellings in a way that I'm like, this is probably the most logical way that this would have happened, if that makes sense. And this story is rough to read and sad, but this is probably the way that, I mean, obviously a statue did not turn to a real person, but this is the way that the only way I will accept this story, I guess. This is Madeline Miller's retelling.
I also have to fully say, when you said Pygmalion, I immediately went to the play based on My Fair Lady was based on. That's what I immediately thought of. I forgot that Pygmalion is based on a mythological figure. So I don't know much about the mythological figures.
So Pygmalion it's a sculptor who basically falls in love with a statue and prays every day to the goddess Aphrodite that this will become a real person, and Aphrodite blesses Pygmalion and creates Galatea, who becomes his wife. But in this story, it's definitely a tale of a husband obsessed with the wife and keeps her captive to the point that he locks her up in a hospital and has her constantly monitored by doctors, and she has to escape and try to get their daughter and get away from him. It's terrifying, but I feel like this is, you can't romanticize a weird thing like a man falling in love with a sculpture and being like, oh, this is so romantic that the sculpture came to life and they're in love now. It's like, no, this is scary. So yeah,
You-
this is the only story the only retelling that I will accept of this because it seems the most accurate.
You know what movie you would really vibe with? I don't know if I've ever seen this movie. Do you ever have those movies where like you've consumed so much information about it, you've convinced yourself you've probably seen it, even though you're not sure you have at this point?
Yes, I've done that with a lot of movies actually, because I don't like to watch too many movies, but I'll like hear about them. Like, okay, I think I'll read about this. Especially like scary movies, I'll just read about them.
I also do that with scary movies, but a movie that you would definitely vibe with is Ruby Sparks because it's very similar to this. It is about a man who's like an author.
I don't know if I like this. I'm just telling you that.
No, I know, but I think it would also like hit your brains, like it would hit your brain similar to this, where you'd be like, I don't know what to think about this, but it's so strange. So it's about a novelist who writes about this dream woman in his mind, and he wakes up the next day and he's in a relationship with her, and she has like no memory that he created her. And as they go through the relationship, like she starts getting a little bit more miserable because she only works to like further his plots. And so he keeps trying to rewrite her story to make her happy. And it's very much about like the obsession and like identity of like a love stricken person versus like, and like towards the end of it is like he does learn
abusive.
It does get a little bit but it's like kind of told through like this very specific romantic fantasy comedy drama type thing is what it's called. And like in the end he does like let Ruby Sparks go because he like recognizes like this is not okay. And it's like he manifested this person, so what is the personhood, like what is her identity in the larger world, and like does she get to have an identity if he lets her go? Like it's a very
is it based off of Pygmalion? I
don't know, like it's very interesting. Like it came out and it has like Zoe Kazan in it, who's one of my favorites from The Big Sick. And so it came out in 2012, so you're gonna have like a little bit of the like he's so awesome, but he's a struggling white man, of it all. But it is like it's supposed to be
Danny is in it from
Chris Messina.
Chris Messina, that's his name.
And then Paul Dano, whose face is so forgettable, but he's in so many different things.
It's based off of Pygmalion. It says
it is
on Wikipedia.
Okay, perfect. And he is very.
That's why I reminded you of that.
So, that's okay. Well, I'm glad that I know enough about this. I didn't.
I'm glad that I described this well enough that it sparked this movie in your mind.
Oops.
Usually I feel like when I talk about books and movies that I've or books I've read and movies that I've watched, I'm like, I'm not describing this well enough.
Right. No, my dad has said to me,
I did spot on this time. My dad said something to me the other day about like, oh, I won't tell you about this or that TV show because I don't want to spoil it. And I said to him, I found that I usually am unbothered by spoilers because people cannot describe things as well as the book or the TV show actually portrays it.
I'm pretty sure Laura loves my reviews because I never try to describe what the book is. I try to describe the vibes you get from it.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh, here are the vibes I got from this book. Because like that's a better, I don't know, for me, that's a better way to tell things. Because when you try to detail plot, like usually the plot isn't the point, like in a lot of TVs and books, like it's about all the other stuff. So I don't know. But yes, this movie inspired by Pygmalion sounds exactly like
it's
Pygmalion.
Exactly like Galatea. So because they're both based off of the same thing. So yeah. But I would recommend Galatea if you want just a short read because it's only 30 pages. So
I would recommend Ruby Sparks if you want the
because
movie
it's
version.
also
and it's also written by a woman. So guys, it's Women's History Month. Really do a deep dive into the Pygmalion of it all.
We're doing this. Read about an abuse story.
Oh my god. Right. Yeah.
A woman in captivity. Read about that. So
sounds about right for Women's History Month.
Yeah.
It's like last month was Black History Month, and it's like let's only read about murder and trauma and like horrifying things, and not Black joy, not female joy. We need to let you know that you suffered, Laura.
Hannah, I want to move into talking about something that I am conflicted on.
Uh-oh, what are you conflicted
I
on?
listened to the book One Last Stop.
Oh, I've been
You
waiting
read
for
this
this
a long time ago,
Mhm.
and somebody recommended it to me to read on Instagram for my 12 challenge. And like halfway through, I was like, because this is a really good audiobook,
Mhm.
honestly. The narrator does a great job. But like halfway through, I'm like really enjoying it. I'm like, this is great. And I'm like posted on Instagram, like, I really like this. Then things started to get so complicated. And
Mhm.
right around that like halfway mark, it was just like I had spoke too soon. I, I don't know why. But like the first half of the book was so enjoyable, and you get so much of like the main character interacting with her roommates and them kind of like figuring life out together and growing together as they are going along and kind of learning about each other. And then you start adding in all of these other storylines that
Yeah.
it became too much. And the author is a really good author, because I feel like it was really quotable for sure. There were many moments I was like, oh, I should write this down. Like, I really like that line or whatever. And there's a lot of like pretty moments and romantic moments. But at the same time, it was like, I think I need like 3 books out of this, because some of these storylines just are too much. It's too much in one book.
Yeah. I think so we had two different like sides to the same coin, because I also feel like there was too much going on in that book, but I also had the opposite problem where I also ended up like, because there were so many other things going on, I found myself way more interested in the other storylines. And I kind of felt like the main character was a big old bummer. Like
Oh, really?
I was like, she's not that interesting. Like there are so many more interesting people like and happenings going on about like people who are
Which
struggling with
main
like
character?
not the one who's trapped on the subway, the other
Okay.
one. So like the main character, because it is
Mm-hmm.
technically through her POV.
Mm-hmm.
August, I believe, right? Is that her name?
Yeah, her name is August.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good
because
job,
I read
Hannah.
a book with a character named August, followed by a character named Augustus. So
Okay, perfect. But I thought August was just kind of pretty bland. Like there wasn't really
Mhm.
much to her, and the people around her, like it was very like found family, and it
Yeah.
almost made me sad because like I remember reading it and being like, I wish we had like better representation for like other people in this book where they got
Mhm.
their own love story instead of being secondary characters in August's story.
The other thing
Um,
too, and this is a thing that romance books suffer from, is things becoming too convenient.
mhm.
And it's like, you didn't have to like tie all these people together. Like, and that's what starts to happen with some of these storylines. In order to wrap them up, the author starts to tie all of these things together.
Because isn't
And
August aunt missing in the book, or someone
her
is
uncle
missing?
has went missing a long time ago. So it's been a whole thing with August's childhood, that her mom has been reasonably, I mean, it's reasonable to be
Right.
obsessed with why your brother has disappeared and no one can find out anything about this. So her
Right.
mom, throughout August's entire life, her mom has been looking for her brother and doing all this detective work on her own, because the case was closed. People aren't concerned about the brother, because you learned that the brother is queer, and
Mhm.
or the uncle, or whatever,
Yeah.
uncle brother,
Uncle.
whatever, August's uncle, and August mom's brother. Anyways, but then you also get into this like parallel dimension, like person trapped in time situation
Mhm.
as well. And then this person somehow becomes connected back to the missing uncle. And then you have them trying to connect into the present day with August's friends, and they're like learning and getting to know each other and navigating through like, I don't know, kind of the how to be single of it all.
And
Because that was
that's
a
how
lot
to
of
be
vibes I got.
single.
And then like her job, of course, like the person that August is like seeing is the one that's trapped on the train, trapped in time. And then that person is also connected to people at August's workplace. And it's just, it becomes too much intertwining
Yeah.
for me. And I kind of wish that it was just like dialed back a couple steps, and it was like, let's remove 3 of these storylines,
Right.
because we only need like kind of 2 plots going on here. And I don't know, it just became a lot, I think. I liked it.
Yeah.
It's
I
like a 3.5
you.
book for me. And it would have been higher if it wouldn't have gotten so complicated.
Yeah, it was a solid 3-star for me. I also liked, you will like Red, White, and Royal Blue, I feel now.
Okay.
Because that's
I mean,
Casey
the author
McQuiston's
is really good.
Yeah,
I just think
fun.
she got too complicated for me.
I get that. No,
and I know a lot of people who really love this book.
Right.
And I really just think it's a me thing that it's too complicated. There's too much going on.
It felt a little like some books I feel, and I haven't, this isn't a fully formed thought, but like, do you ever feel like millennials are way too hard on themselves? Because that book felt very millennial to me, like with the like,
and that was something that I really like related to, because the people in the book were like a year or two younger than me. And I was like, I feel I can like relate to so many of these things that they're talking about or whatever, you know. And I did get a lot of those vibes where it was like the characters are all kind of going through experiences that it's like, yeah, I get this, and I feel like that times two or whatever, you know. So
but I do wonder if we're going to see like a theme in millennial authors where they're trying too hard to make too many people happy. Like, because millennials are a little bit of people pleasers. Like,
no,
guilty. No, never. We're not people pleasers.
No way.
I do think sometimes we're like, okay, I'm gonna put this in this and this and this and this and this, and then you get it and you're like, it's the Parks and Rec, you made a camel of it all. Like,
yeah.
Oh, you made a camel, great.
Michael Jackson is actually he's actually moonwalking with carrying Greg Kinnear out of a burning building.
It looks like he's running into a building. See, that's what I said. All of this is trash. We just need to put shapes on it. We've got it back to Parks and Rec.
Full circle.
No, full circle. So I do think sometimes we make a little bit of a camel because we want to make too many people happy, and it can't be like one thing. It has to be like missing uncle and true crime obsession, and
honestly,
stuck
like
in a time loop.
Like the mom and uncle and her like trying to get away from them, and that whole thing, that could have been a book in itself that would have been extremely interesting.
Yes.
Like, agreed. I would have just loved that book by itself. The uncle who has gone missing and the daughter who's like, I need to separate myself from my mom. Like, I want to make my own life because I am kind of tired of playing detective all the time with a case that's going nowhere and nobody that's helping us. Right. And I would have really been interested in just that storyline on its own. I also would have really been interested in just the time loop on its own and learning about Jane and that romance. So
I did almost want it from Jane's perspective too, because I thought that could have been an interesting story. And like, yeah,
it would have been cooler, honestly.
Yeah.
But how often do we get like a main character that we're like, oh, this person is super interesting? It's always super bland person because all the other people are super interesting.
Stupid authors being told to write self-insert characters.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times you do get characters that I feel like you want to just like make them bland because you do want the reader to be able to be like, oh, I understand where they're coming from, and it's like there's nothing to this character. But
and a lot of editors want it that way so that like you don't have a moment where like you're sitting there and you're like, I don't like that, because like Laura, you've read portions of my novel and you don't love my main character, and I think too many people are like,
I honestly can't remember.
I just remember no, it's been a very, very long time, but I do remember like you had a very strong reaction where you were like, she's kind of stuck up, I don't like her. And I think like some people get that way where they like don't want someone to have a bad reaction, and it's like, well, yeah, but that's kind of it's a flawed character for a reason. Right. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. What are you gonna do?
Right. I know. Also, I just want to mention, because we were talking about like being people pleasers, I had a friend bring her little kids out to see my baby goats, to see my kids, and she said to me, she was petting the adult goats, and she was like, I like the big goats, but I like the baby goats better. And I said, I'm kind of that way with people. I like the big people, but I like the little people better. And she gave me like the little squinty eyed look like, you're weird. Why would you say that? And I was like, this is the reaction I need from 4-year-olds.
That's my boyfriend. My friend came to visit this weekend and she has a 9-month-old baby. And I was like, I had to put on my coat. I was obviously holding the baby because why wouldn't you hold the 9-month-old baby? We had to walk somewhere. She has things to carry. And I was like, here, can you hold this baby? And he like started holding him. And I like looked at him for half a second. I was like, you've never held a baby before, have you? He was like, I think I'm doing a pretty good job. And then I like picked up the baby and I was holding him and he was like, I see how it's different. So
9 months old, they're pretty solid by then. I mean,
yeah,
I don't like the super like, oh, we just had him. We just got out of the hospital. Do you want to hold him? You're like, they're still pretty soft at this point. I don't know.
The look of terror my dad gets on his face when we hand him a newborn baby that he just has to sit there and hold. He's always like, I don't know what to do with them when they're this little. And you're like,
it's scary.
Just sit there. You sit there.
When you're someone as clumsy as me, you get nervous, even if you're sitting down, like, and someone sets it on top of you. You're like, what if I break it?
That's the How I Met Your Mother quote of like, why would you make a self-destruct button on the softest part of the baby?
Right.
It's
concerning.
I don't know.
Hannah, what have you been reading and watching?
So I read Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo.
Ooh, yay.
I really like this book. It's so deeply emotional. It's about two girls, and it's told in verse, which is a very interesting way to read. Yeah. And it's about these two girls whose dad, one lives in Dominican Republic and one person lives in New York, and they have the same father, and they don't know about each other because he had two different families. And he dies in a historic airplane that did go down. It's based on a true crash. I'm trying to look at what it was called. I can't remember, but it was a flight that was pretty historic, and it was going to the Dominican Republic when it went down. Mm-hmm. And it kind of sent waves through the Dominican Republic, like people. And so in this book, you get to see both the girls' perspectives, as like one of them had recently found out that the dad had another marriage. And so she was going through that. And then one of the girls didn't know any of this existed. And it's kind of about dealing with the loss of someone, the grief and the anger you can still hold for them when you find out like what they did to you and how they like kept a certain portion of themselves away from you and lied to you. Mm-hmm. And like
the truth wasn't really the way that you thought it was.
And one of the girls, like the girl who is technically like the marriage doesn't count, like she didn't have rights to the money involved. Oh. And like and then it's a very complicated book, and like the way that it talks about like generational issues, because like they do get some settlement money at one point, and the mom like starts spending it on the rest of the family, and the daughter's like upset because she does know that this other family exists, or like this other, she thinks it's another woman. The woman like passed away, but like she's upset, and the mom's kind of like, I was looked down upon by my family because of me marrying him and how weak he became. And so like, I have to buy their affection back in, and I need my family. And you like can disagree with what she's doing, but I think that the way the author like writes about her is like completely understandable. And it shows like how flawed and how like, and I think this book has good perspective on showing that like sometimes in your own head, something feels so justified, but from the outside looking in, it sounds horrible, you know, because like these girls have anger towards each other, and they want to like, there are moments where you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I disagree with what you're doing, but also I can understand why you might do this and why you think that this is the only choice you have in the moment. And so I really enjoy this book. It's a young adult book. And I highly, like, I think everyone should read it. I do think I need to go back in a couple months and listen to it, because I think when you're reading in verse, sometimes like I have a hard time like keeping the like pace in my mind
The
of how you're
cadence.
the cadence, thank you, of like how you're supposed to be reading it. And I kind of was just reading it more as like a plot. And I was like, I bet if I listened to this in audiobook, like the beauty of the verse would be so magical. So I think everyone should probably listen to this book. I haven't, but I'm sure it's gorgeous. And I know you like Elizabeth Acevedo. You've read one of her books.
Yes, I did. I read
From Fires on High, maybe?
Yes, Set the Fire on High.
Yes.
Or with the Fire on High.
With the Fire on High. I actually have that out for the library too, so I want to read that one as
well.
That
was really good.
So yeah, I really enjoyed that book. And right now we are doing Indie Palooza, guys. And I'm not quite finished, but I was gonna say
I didn't mention anything because I haven't finished anything, but
I'm
also reading an indie book. Go ahead.
But right now, just so we can showcase one for this week during Indie Palooza, go over to ourpod.com and read Laura's beautiful review of The Part About the Dragon Was Mostly True by Sean Gibson.
Alderman. It's by Alderman. Just kidding. It's by Sean.
No, but Laura wrote a wonderful review on that, and we will be hosting a giveaway of his re-released hardback copy soon.
It's so cool. I love the new cover.
I love the new cover. I think it's so good. I like how like
it's like perfect actually.
It's like a perfect little throwback. I think it's awesome. Yes. So go there for our Indie Palooza one highlight. And then I am reading Along the Perimeter by Stephen Healt. It is a book about it's like a post-apocalyptical science fiction / fantasy where there is like a caustic fog that blankets the earth. And there's only one place where they have like livable, renewable resources because of a transparent barrier known as the shield that was brought in by an alien race called the Amboyans. And they like have saved humanity, and we follow all these different people within the shield who kind of like, we have like mercenary groups. We have a woman who wears protective gear and goes out into the haze to like scavenge for like old school like technology, like technology we would have right now, because it like becomes collector's items. And we also find out that there are people who live in the haze who have to like use all this protective equipment, and they have been attacking people within the shield to like get food and everything. And so we have that. And then we have one of the first human guards in the inner city of Amboy. And they usually only had Amboyans be the guards, but this is the first human. And so there's a little bit of alien technology. There's a little bit of like old school mixed with new technology, because it's like they lost a lot of their technology when they had to have the shield and the haze came down, but they still have some of it. And it's I will say this book has like really great world building, like every time I'm reading it, and it's good world building for people who don't love world building, because like as someone who sometimes zones out during world building, I feel like Stephen Healt like does a really good job of tossing you in like nuggets exactly when you need them, and in such a straightforward manner that you know you're not like getting too much. You're like getting exactly the amount you need. And I really enjoy that. I think the plot moves at a very good pace. So pick that up, guys. I'm about like 2/3 of the way through, and I'm enjoying it immensely. So thank you. I won those books during a giveaway, and I will of course be writing a long form review of this book as well. But just so you guys know, that's what I'm reading at Indie Palooza.
I'm currently reading Goodbye to the Sun by Jonathan Navarre. It's the first in the Windtide series, and it's a space opera. And I won't give too many more details because I'm actually really digging this book a lot right now, and I'm excited to finish it. So I will come back. I will have a review as well, but it's really good, guys.
And then for watching, so one thing I'm watching right now, Scream 6 comes out this week, and I've
been watching all the Screams.
Yeah, with my boyfriend, I've been making him watch them. He's not into horror. Okay, so we went and saw the newest Ant-Man movie a couple weeks ago. It was okay. I thought that the plotting of it was a little bit bad because it should have been his daughter's movie, because the themes in the movie were perfectly set up to have it be where Cassie is like a little bit more of an activist right now. And I thought that there was going to be like an overlying theme of like when a person is allowed to take a break and when a person is allowed to like put down the mantle. and when like you actually need to be active because you putting down the mantle and not helping people actually causes more harm. And they had it set up so well to have like Cassie be this like, no, dad, even though you've like done everything and even though you have a right to rest, like sometimes you can't rest. And because it was Ant-Man's movie, none of that happened. And I just thought it was a pretty weak movie, especially they had it perfectly set up where like Ant-Man and Nicole, or not Nicole, oh my God, what's her name? Michelle Pfeiffer could have been like these two people who were like, harm came because we did nothing and we like wanted to rest. And it's like, well, do you deserve to rest or do you have to fight for fight for the greater good? And I was like, oh, those would have been greater themes. And then they tried to shove way too much into it and it just did not work. But whoever is doing Michelle Pfeiffer's Botox, guys, like find them and get your work done there because my God,
Michelle Pfeiffer's in this?
Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah, she plays Evangeline Lilly's mother. And she was lost for a long time in the quantum realm. And so they go back to the quantum realm. And like every time she was on screen, like she's already gorgeous. I am not saying anything that like Michelle Pfeiffer is fucking amazing, but she is 64 years old, guys, and her cheekbones are as perfect as when she was 20. And like she has had to have like the sculpting on her face is immaculate. And I was like, damn, Michelle Pfeiffer looks good. Like every single time she was on screen, all I could think was like, she looks amazing. Like whoever's doing work on her face is like aces because my gosh, she looks good.
So watch for Michelle Pfeiffer's face.
I did say let's applaud the best actress in that film, Michelle Pfeiffer's cheekbones, because they were acting. But when we were watching the trailers for it, the new Scream movie came out and I didn't know it was like coming out this month and like the trailer came up and he like my boyfriend looked at me and like this like, oh, you would never want to see that movie, you don't like scary movies. And the joy that was on my face that a new Scream movie was coming out because I love the Scream franchise so much.
Really?
Yeah, I really enjoy the Scream franchise. Like I think the first movie is one of the best movies. Like it's so good. It's very subversive in the way it talks about like horror genre and like every time you watch it you gain something new. So because he knows I love these movies so much, he is now watching all of them with me for the first time. And then he's going to go see Scream 6 with me. And I actually have always known who the murderers are going to be. I think there was only one where I didn't know one of the murderers, but I knew who the other one was going to be.
How did you know? You like had spoilers?
I looked it up I looked at because I have a very specific.
I thought you meant you like just guessed.
No. I have a very specific obsession with the Scream movies where you and I read, like we read the synopses of Scream movies. And so with that one, I was like, oh, I always read them before I watched them, before I decided I could watch them and I wasn't going to be freaked out by them. But this will be the first one that I'm going to try really, really, really hard not to look up who the murderer is. So we'll see.
We'll see how that plays out.
I know we'll see how it plays out, but I freaking love these movies. I honestly like this movie might be a little bit of a disappointment because a lot of the Scream movies, they're about like people who are incompetent becoming serial killers. So like there's so many times where like they're in Scream 2, there's a situation where Sarah Michelle Gellar is like fighting him and she just keeps like hitting the Scream guy and he's just like falling over himself. And so there's like a comedic element to them because like it is supposed to be like not a supernatural power. It's just like some guy in a mask who decided he was going to like go on a rampage, and they do subvert the genre in a very interesting way. So I love those movies. And so I'm watching.
I'm surprised by that.
I know. I really like them. They're so good, guys. If you guys love Scream films, let me know. And let me know what you guys thought about the fifth one the fifth one, because I was really upset by some of it that I just thought was like a little bit disingenuous, but what are you going to do? And it has our favorite Wednesday Addams, Jenna Ortega.
Jenna Ortega's in it. I knew that.
Because of her face.
Just something about her face. Did you see the clip of her and Aubrey Plaza?
Yes.
At the SAG Award? That was amazing.
They're very funny. I
watched that like 2 minutes of them together like several times. It was very funny.
So I watched that, and then I also, oh my gosh. So I've been going through it, guys, recently, and like my mental health is like, we'll see. But I was like sitting on my couch and I was like, I think I want to watch a British murder show because I've been watching murder shows lately. And then I was like, no, you know what I want? I want British old school, like British, what's it called? period piece where I can just sit and watch people be uncomfortable with each other. And I was like, oh, there's this one show, and I honestly can't remember what it's called right now, but I watched almost all of season one night and stayed up till like 12:30 in the morning watching this damn show because I was like, this is exactly what I wanted it to be.
Where do you watch your British shows on? Do you have BritBox or?
I used to have BritBox, but they took away my Midsummer Murders. Rude. There is this British show that's like ran for 5 seasons, and the last season was in 2019, called Poldark. And it is on Amazon Prime. And I remember there was a Fuckboys of Literature episode about this show.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, oh yeah, I remember that existed. And I like looked into it, and it's based on like a 12-book series written by this guy, Winston Graham. And like the last book was published in 2002, and the first one came out in 1945.
Oh my gosh.
So like this spanned years, and it's about like this main guy named Ross Poldark, because of course his name is Ross, and he's like a British army officer who returns from the Revolutionary War to his home in Cornwall, and he like kind of finds it in ruins. His dad is dead. He like ran this mine that was like a lesser mine to his like his uncle's mine, because the uncle was the eldest son. And like the mines have dried up. There's like no economy in Cornwall, and everyone thought Ross was going to be dead. So the woman he was like in love with is getting married to his cousin. And so like the uncle moves up the wedding to the cousin so that she can't pull out of it. And then he like ends up like, so Ross decides to like open up the mines, and it is so British, so old school, exactly what I wanted, which was just like the silliness of nothing, but the drama of everything, where like the worst thing is like someone comes to a christening when like they shouldn't have been there.
So it's like real life, where it's just like
exactly like
nothing's happening, but there's a lot of drama.
Yes, exactly. And like there is like an evil banker person, and I was like watching it, and like the cousin is kind of seen as this derelict because he wasn't taught hard work, but Ross, who was like a gambler, got sent to war and he learned his lesson. And I was talking to someone, and they were like, was it like supposed to be about, and it's weirdly about like classism in the working class, because they talk about this mining, and they talk about this woman who's like in love with Ross Poldark, who's like in a lower class, you know, and she like works for him. And so they get into all of those things. But it's like, yeah, but the main protagonist is still the rich white man who has to save everyone. It's just he works hard, so he earned it. And I'm like, yeah, it's not really the best like telling, but it's fun and it's dramatic, and like it moves quickly, because like from episodes 1 to 5, there's like 4 years have passed. So, like, a ton happens and nothing much at all. But I love it so much. I am fascinated by the show, and I will watch all 5 seasons.
There's definitely something to be said for shows like that, though. It's just like, I know that there are not great things happening, but I just enjoy watching this, you know?
Yes. Well, and his cousin's such a dick, because like imagine knowing the woman that you want to marry is in love with your cousin, and like you move up the wedding and she does agree to it. So like bad on her for not being like, I need to pull out. This is not good for me. But the cousin ends up like getting so pissy about the fact that she was once in love with Ross and still has like feelings for him, and he's always like, I'm not my cousin, everyone thinks my cousin's better than me. And it's like, but you're still like having sex with the sex worker in town all the time, and you think you earned that right because she was in love with someone. Like, no, she's not. Like, she isn't committing adultery with anyone, but you sure are. Like, it's maddening to me, but that's neither here nor there. So I love the show. I can't wait to watch it. And one of the main guy is a very, very sexy man. He is very, very good looking. Aidan Turner, he was in the Hobbit film series. He was Keely.
Okay, I gotta look him up then. Oh yes,
yeah,
Keely and Philly. Yes.
Yeah. He's a good looking man. And he wears no shirt quite often.
Well, maybe I will have to watch that because he's the one that everybody is like, this hobbit is so attractive. There's so many memes about him.
Yep. So he is that guy. And he recently was like, yeah, I would totally do another Poldark series. And it's like, of course you would. Like, you guys could wait 5 years and just have one of the other novels. There were 12 of them. So good job on them for casting that guy. He does a good brood. They're both big and they both brood. And so, yeah, that's what I've been watching. And I can't wait to watch all of it even more.
Nice.
So with that said, Laura, should we dive into the first 9 chapters
Let's do it.
Exit Strat or Network Effect? I will never get these books right.
So I so far have not picked up on the book title in the book.
Oh, yeah. We have not seen the movie title.
It says right on the front, though, a Murderbot novel.
Novel, not novella.
Not a novella.
I also like the Wired quote. I might have a little bit of a thing for a robot. Its name is Murderbot. But Murderbot is not a robot. But we kind of break in on Murderbot, just kind of giving a rundown of all of its clients. And like it's kind of talking about how like there's different types of clients. Some need more security than they're willing to have, and some need less. And
this is me describing customers. I work in customer service. Some are needy, some need you to kind of help them along a little more. Others like to do things themselves and are great.
Yes. And need minimal interaction. And Murderbot would agree with you that they're the best. But Dr. Arata is the terminal optimist right in the middle, and Dr. Thiago, who is Dr. Mensa's brother, is firmly in the let's investigate the dark cave without the pesky sec unit group. And so he is not following protocol, and he like tried to talk to these people who came up to talk to them on a mission, and they attacked. And did they take him hostage? Am I remembering that right? No, but they do shoot Murderbot. And Murderbot is like, are you kidding me? You got me shot. Come on. Like, this is ridiculous. And he also,
Murderbot's like, it's a good thing I don't bleed so much.
Murderbot is also just ridiculous because like, oh, these clients, we just keep getting shot at. And some of you guys aren't wearing your helmets and other people are on the other side, but they aren't often. And so Murderbot like takes them all out.
Nobody listens to me.
And I love this because like Murderbot goes on and on about how stupid Thiago is, but then it's like, okay, so maybe he had a point because we did meet with other groups who were perfectly fine, and this was the first group who wasn't perfectly fine, so he was lulled into a false sense of security. Right. But I still got shot at, guys. So I will say Murderbot's like keeps getting more and more vocal about like their internal monologue, and I love it so much.
It's one of those things too, where it's like the same things keep happening to Murderbot over and over and over again. And it's like, this is very realistic because this kind of crap does happen to people over and over again. Like people having extreme biases against you. It's not just like a one novella thing and we're done. This is this happens every flipping day of my life. And I'm so sick of it. Now I'm just tired of talking about it. I'm going to just blow up because I'm so mad at you, Thiago, because you're like the 50th person who's treated me like this.
Right. Well, and Thiago, it's like, I gave you no reasons to hate me, and yet you still do.
I just totally get the context, though, for Murderbot to be like, I'm so over this. And Thiago would be like, I don't get it. And it's like, yeah, because you're like the 50th person to be like this.
Well, and like Murderbot like takes Thiago, like the people around Thiago down. Thiago kind of gets what's going on. So it's like helping him. He's helping Murderbot out. But then Murderbot goes, okay. I admit that it was a little upsetting that Thiago didn't trust me. And
it's like, you're obviously upset about this. You try so hard to like hide your emotions, and it's like, you're not good at it.
Right. And it kind of goes back into a transcript of it listening. And it's like Thiago talking to Mensa. And it's like, well, I have reservations about bringing this sec unit along. And Mensa's like, well, if Murderbot's not going, well, she always calls it the sec unit because they don't name Murderbot without its permission. But it's like, well, if Murderbot isn't going, then my daughter's not going. And Thiago's like, you trust it that much? And Mensa's like, yeah, duh. And she goes, I know what it will do to protect her and you and the rest of the team. Of course it has faults. In fact, it's probably listening to us right now. Are you listening, sec unit?
Me on the feed. No.
No. I'd missed the rest. I thought it was better to shut down my tap on the room's comm. So anyway, it like takes everything down with the drones. And one of the target leaders has Thiago's arm and weapon pointed at Thiago's head. Murderbot talks about how many drones it has to sacrifice to save him, and it's very frustrating. There's so many parts that are so funny where like Murderbot is discussing different videos that it's pulling up to keep it calm, and everyone's like yelling around each other, and Thiago is like, it doesn't listen to me, and people are like, is it human? What's going on? And Murderbot takes out the people and gets all the gets Dr. Thiago and Dr. Arata inside, and they sail away to get off the hatch.
Yeah, Murderbot is not a fan of boats at all.
Murderbot hates many things. Boats is one of them. Boats. And it gets back on this ship, and Arata's like, hey, you need to get to medical. And Murderbot's like, what's in medical? And it's like, you got shot, Murderbot.
You are bleeding everywhere. Come on, get going.
And Murderbot's like, I'm fine. Just get me the extractor. I'll take it out right here. And they're all freaking out. They're trying to say like Murderbot's calming them down. And they actually made good time because they get to head back soon from this mission. Murderbot's so bitter about Thiago getting it shot. And
this is how it always works too, where so maybe this is just my experience, but if you like have someone that you're annoyed with, if they do anything, like there can be a group of people doing something, only the person that you are annoyed with is the one that you are mad at of anything that they do. It's like, I got a paper cut and I'm positive it was Thiago's fault, and it's like, okay, they weren't even around.
Flash over to like the one person I disliked wishing me a happy birthday, when I'm like, why are you wishing me a happy birthday? I don't care. I'm not gonna wish you a happy birthday on your birthday. But Thiago was like, did you kill those people? And Murderbot's like, what do you think I did? Like, yeah,
in there,
they're just hanging out. Come on,
be real.
And he's like upset with that, and Murderbot is kind of like doesn't answer and goes around it and is like, I've reported to my contracted supervisor. And Thiago's like, well, I could just ask her if I wanted to. And Murderbot's like, okay, go for it. Like, I'm not gonna tell you. And so and if you had meant to get me shot, Thiago, we would be having a different conversation, because I was still mad. I said the security protocol all survey members agreed to is available on the facility feed. So it's like, I'm not going to tell you. The information is there.
You can go look it up. It's public.
Then Murderbot leaves, and it's like also bitter because like they shot at me first. Come on. And then it talks about a help me file excerpt 1, file detached from the main narrative. And it kind of talks about like how it's been helping Dr. Mensa, and how at one point Dr. Mensa asked it to go to this art festival conference religious observation with her for these live performances, and Murderbot loves live performances, so it went.
What did you think of these like journaling
I thought it was very
excerpts within the book? I thought that was really clever.
I thought it was very clever too, especially as like it gets on and we get to the moments where it's like, hey, you never call the company by anything other than company. And Murderbot is like,
because we learned that Murderbot is basically going through therapy.
Yeah, right now.
Is learning how to deal with its own trauma and processing emotions and everything. So we get these excerpts in here that are labeled as help me files. And at first you don't really get it, but then you find out as you go along that this is like a journaling session of Murderbot documenting its own experiences and doing like therapy homework, basically.
Right. And so like Murderbot talks about like talking to Dr. Mensa on this trip when like Mensa asked.
It's like a big festival.
Yeah, it's this big festival, and it overhears that like Thiago's talking to Mensa about like how Mensa kind of shut down and isn't talking to any of them. And Mensa like, it's like, I told you why I'm trusting in other things and I can't do this right now. And like They're Farai, who I believe is one of Mensa's spouses.
One of Mensa's spouses, yes.
Yeah, it's like, well, she's asked for space, so we have to give it to her.
Mhm.
And Mensa like kind of goes out with Murderbot by themselves. And she kind of talks about how Murderbot is the only one she can trust because it's the only one who like knows everything she's been through. And
there's something so comforting about like having that person that you have like that shared experience, especially when it's a traumatic experience. Like, I'm not saying it's always great, but there is comfort in having a person that knows what's going on.
And Murderbot kind of talks about like how it is difficult because like Murderbot understands what's going on. Like, it's not a bot that was built to give comfort or help in these situations. So it understands all the problems that are going on right now. And so kind of Dr. Mensa and Murderbot are just working through this together. And Dr. Bhardwaj later is like, I wish you were wrong. But and Murderbot like recognizes that a lot of people see them kind of differently. But notes that like Farai kind of sees Murderbot as its own self. And although people like ask Murderbot like what their relationship is, and Murderbot's kind of like, I don't know. I'm just like a refugee working as employee security consultant. And it just kind of says that it's her sec unit. So there's a little bit of complicated feelings on like how Murderbot can identify its relationships to people and other
especially
bots.
Dr. Mensa.
And Mensa's family is also really weirded out by how it has to provide security now because they never needed security before. Like, they're a pretty peaceful planet, and so it just doesn't make sense to them.
And now it's a situation too where it's like everywhere that Dr. Mensa goes, she's kind of on edge and like leaving that festival and everything. Which also, when they left the festival, I thought it was funny that one Dr. Mensa like was holding Murderbot's hand for a minute, and Murderbot's like, no, I hate this. I hate everything about this. And then also Murderbot was like, I'm recording all the plays, so we're not going to miss anything.
I love that when it was like, I wanted to see everything. I can't miss a thing. So everything is being recorded. And so Mensa, and it also talks about how like Grey Chris has kind of been up and coming, and like there's just been an issue. So Murderbot has also taken upon it itself to look at all the credible threats at Mensa's family.
And really, a lot of this has been caused by Murderbot.
Right.
Murderbot has put Dr. Mensa at risk. So I also wonder too if Murderbot feels almost like a sense of like duty to continue security for Dr. Mensa and Dr. Mensa's family, because it's like you wouldn't be in this situation if it wasn't for me.
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Murderbot would totally be a Swiftie, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
All of that. Just it would be like this. These songs make me have feelings.
Yeah. Lavender Haze all day.
Midnight rain. It's just like Murderbot's sitting there not saying anything, and they're like, what's it doing? And it's like, it's listening to Taylor Swift again.
It's listening to Taylor Swift again.
You just gotta let it go. But Murderbot notes that Mensa's daughter has been associating with a questionable person who is doing things like, number one, he informed her his age was comparable to hers, which was just below the local standard for legal adult. But my physical scan and public record search indicated that he was approximately 12 preservation standard calendar years older. So he lies about his age. He never approached her when any family members or verified friends were with her. He stared at her secondary sexual characteristics when her attention was elsewhere. He encouraged her to take intoxicants when he wasn't ingesting himself. Her parental and other related humans all assumed she was with her friends when she was seeing him, and her friends all assumed she was with the family, and she hadn't told either of them about him. And 6, I just had a bad feeling about the little shit.
So he seems predatory to me.
Yes. But I also love that, like, at first, Murderbot is like, could he be with Grey Chris? And then Murderbot was like, I just don't like him. And it's just like, yeah, you picked up on his overall vibe. Good job.
And this is also something I relate to, though, too, where you like, I'm not super great at getting vibes from people. I have a hard time reading people.
Right.
So like this is obviously extreme, but it's funny to me where it's like, does he work for Grey Chris?
I know.
And he's coming for Dr. Mensa's daughter. Or is it possibly just a creepy
old man who's at a festival trying to get young girls drunk.
Get young girls drunk and do nasty things.
Yes. And so Murderbot and all of its favorite Murderbotness just breaks into his home one night when like she's supposed to be hanging out with a group of people and no one else was there. And the guy freaks out because there's a sec unit in his house, but he doesn't realize it's a sec unit. And Amena is like, this is my second mother's friend and her security person. And then he's like, oh my gosh, you have a security person? And he like runs away immediately. And Amena is really ticked off at Murderbot. Yeah. And she's like, I could have taken care of myself. And
it's like, no,
Murderbot is like, I don't really fuck around. So he would have been murdered if he was an actual threat. I just scared him away from you because he was not great. And Murderbot also points out that like Mensa is a planetary leader. And so it is its job to kind of keep track of Amena. And Amena is like, he wasn't a corporate spy. And like Murderbot points out why he was scuzzy and gross. And Amena is like obviously ticked off by that. And Murderbot's like, well, that could have gone better.
Amena also is like concerned that Murderbot's just gonna like tattle on her.
Right.
And Murderbot's like, I'm not gonna tell anyone.
Right. And so it kind of flashes forward again to when it's talking to Mensa, and it talks about how like she's been worried and she feels really overwhelmed with everything that's been happening to her. And like she kind of knows that Murderbot like has been noticing that she's really only talking to it more and more. And
this is where we get into the dangerous portions of traumatic bonding, where it's like, yeah, you are relying too heavily on a person that has a shared trauma.
Yep. And also like Murderbot is a sec unit. So like it feels normal for Mensa to rely on it as a security consultant, but she's doing it in a really unhealthy way where she can't be far away from it. And she needs it around her at all times. And she doesn't feel safe unless it's nearby. And Murderbot kind of like points out that it's noticed these things, and she's like, I guess I've been obvious. And it's like, no, but like, you know, people, and Murderbot also pointed out that like people are picking up on the fact that she feels like she's in a lot more danger because Murderbot is around all the time. And so she kind of asks Murderbot to go on the survey team to keep Amena and everything safe. Because they need Murderbot and it's a wonderful opportunity for it, and she needs to let go. And then Murderbot goes, well, you know, and she says I need to stand apart so I can stand on my own feet again. And Murderbot's like, I didn't think she was wrong, but I don't know if she was doing all the things she needed to, so I sort of blackmailed her.
Well, Murderbot tells Mensa like, you need to do the trauma treatment, and then Mensa then goes on and is like, you need to do this, and then the blackmail happens.
And so Murderbot also talks about like how part of the problem with Mensa and now Amena is like Murderbot told Amena that it was supposed to be keeping an eye on her, and that is like not great because it upset her. And so, you know, it's just, there's just going to be a disaster because there's too many things going on. And Murderbot also was like, I may have been too harsh with her about the potential target. And it's like, no, you weren't. She was just embarrassed. Like, there are ways to do that. And so then we talk about how they're docking the base ship. There's no problems. They're getting ready to leave the survey team with Arata and Amena and Thiago and all of them.
This is like the first time Arata has been in charge that we know of.
And Rathi is there. And so
Oversay.
Murderbot is like, my job wasn't to make the humans obey Arata. That wasn't how preservation works. Besides, they hadn't been a problem. Like, it was just kind of there as security and to get out. And Murderbot's like, anyways, like if anyone had tried to like, they're just my clients, but if anyone tried to hurt them, I would rip out their guts and they would be murdered all over the place.
It's like, I don't care about people, but if anyone tries to hurt these humans, I will destroy them.
Right. And so Murderbot is like, there is like, oh good, I get to just watch all this stuff, and we're going to have smooth sailing back to the Port Authority. And then they start having a ship come at them that is a potential hostile vessel, and the boarding attempt may be imminent. And
the way that Murderbot dropped the ball on this, though, I'm like,
know,
come on, quit watching Sanctuary Moon. You totally dropped the ball on this. And they're like all communicating with each other. Like, is this a hostile unit? Like, what is going on here?
Murderbot is like, oh, this could be bad, guys.
Oh, wait a minute. This might be bad. And Athens like, yes, it is. What are you doing?
And Murderbot has like throw clothes on, and it notes that it doesn't like wearing logos of any kinds. And so they start getting attacked, and Murderbot doesn't really know what to do, but it knows it's trying to like keep everyone safe and getting them to the evacuation units.
Usually what it does is like isolate people. And so that's what it's doing here. It's trying to like isolate people to get them like down a passage into the pod to get them safe.
Right. But then it realizes that Amena and one of the others are down below the decks. And so it has to go get them. And it's running around, and it's like, I will find them. This is, and it's kind of everything's going to hell in a handbasket. And so there are no hostiles on board that they know about. And so Murderbot is very, very scared about this. And they have drones. And so Murderbot gets down to where Amena is, and it's too hard for them to get back up to the safe area because of the people. And so they need to evacuate and get in evac suits. And so Murderbot takes them out into space. So this will be like one of the few Murderbot's been out in space before, but it doesn't happen very often. So it's always surprised when it happens.
Well, because the rest of their group, Murderbot's just like, get out of here, go.
Yeah.
And then with Amena, then they go out into the evac suits.
Right. And so they are out, and there's like some shots being fired, but there's a miss, and the attacker fired and missed. And they're like, are they aiming at the safe pod? And they don't really know what's going on. And as Murderbot and Amena are out in the sky, Murderbot sees the transport embarkation schedule on the station after leaving Port Free Commerce, or it sees a designation number that it recognizes. And it goes, that's Art. And so they are being attacked by Art. And Murderbot is like, I lost circulations in my organic parts. This was so weird. It's eerie. It feels weird and violating. And Amena's like, what is Art? So there was another attack, but it was a miss. And Murderbot is preparing to get Amena and itself over to the safety units to like get them on board. And it's like getting ready to be caught, but then they're pulled in by a tractor into an airlock, and they lose the feed from everyone else. And Murderbot is like kind of freaking out. It doesn't really know what to do with the fact like Art is here. And Amena is like incredibly scared, and she's trying to talk to Art, or she's trying to talk to Murderbot. She's like, please talk to me. Like, what's going on? And so Murderbot tries to talk about like pinging Art, and it's not working. Art's not answering. It can't find it anywhere. And it's like, well, I had this like, I had a communication tool under my suit, but like, it obviously won't work because I can't reach Art. And so it's like, well, I'm not having any system memory crash, but this is Art. It's the same designation and registry, but like, what's going on?
And then it has to use its hatred of logos to figure out
it sees like
what the ship actually is. It's like, what do those patches on the evac suits say?
I know. And it's also like, oh, this was my friend. It only helped me because it wanted me to, because it could. And it like doesn't know how to voice that to Amena on like why it's so upset. And
also we learned that Art's name is technically Perihelion.
Yeah, Perihelion. So it's for the Pan System University of Mahira and New Tideland. Yes. And Amena is kind of like scared, but Murderbot really doesn't know how to talk right now because it's just really freaking out. Because
they're assuming that it's a stolen ship.
Yeah. And she's kind of, and Amena's kind of like, why would this be like a vessel? Like, what do they hate researchers? Like,
Which
why
is
did
so
they take
funny
over
to me.
this
They
ship?
hate research.
They're just going around attacking research ships.
How dare you research?
And then she's like, do you recognize the ship? Did you do something to them? And it's like, of course not. And it's like, that was a total lie because Art had to come here after me. So it's kind of like I hadn't hurt Art or something. So it's like freaking out. I know, it's so cute. And so it's like it doesn't really know how it got on without Art's cooperation, or like Art could definitely do something without getting violently murdered. Because like Art can definitely kill humans. Come on.
Oh yeah.
Like, and so they're kind of just getting their systems down pat, and Amena is like, it's sorry, so many names throwing around my head, too many A names. Murderbot is kind of like, I guess we go out into the ship now. And Amena's like, is that a good idea? And it's like, I don't know. What other suggestions are there?
I was going to say, they don't have any other options.
Right. So. And so Murderbot like heads out with her and immediately gets shot. And so it shuts down, and then it has to restart up again. And it's really frustrated. So it's like the drones were dormant since it went down. But like its audio starts kicking in, and it can hear Amena's voice, and it's like, you've made a mistake. There are armed ships minutes away. And they're like, oh, we're in a bridge transit. So they're like headed for a wormhole to get them moving a little bit faster. And it's going to be incredibly difficult to get on during that time. And it notes that Murderbot notes that they're like probably speaking another language, that they have a translator that's like getting it so everyone can hear. And they're asking about a weapon, and it's like, you're lying, when she's like, we don't have weapons.
It's like, Murderbot is the weapon. Hello.
Yeah, I know. I immediately was like, oh, it's Murderbot. And then I was like, oh, Art, why would you call Murderbot a weapon? Murderbot like goes to hunt them down to stop them from like messing with Amena, and it notes that there are some camouflage drones there, which like Art shouldn't have had. So it starts taking its drone. I do love this part because like Murderbot gets to be a little bit more secret agenty, where it's like, I'm sending my drones out, but I'm also watching for these stealth modes because I can see stealth modes my drones can't,
which is cool.
Right. And so it sees like the two targets who are facing Amena, and there are casualties with them, so that there are two like people there. And Murderbot like goes in to see them, and it's like, I thought you said it was killed. And it's like, poor thing was dead. And Murderbot's like, a capillary just burst inside one of my organic parts. How dare you? And they're the target. Murderbot starts calling them target 1 and 2. And it's like, what did you do to Art? And they're like, these silly little beings can't control their own like reactions and words.
You're babbling.
They're so stupid. You're babbling. And then it's like, oh, this one looks angry. How boring. Angry, then afraid, then dead. Boring, boring, boring. And it's kind of just like threatening and very much like they don't know what to do. So Murderbot just takes one of them out. And immediately
they had revealed that they deleted Art.
Oh, yes, I forgot. Yes, they said that I didn't forget. This is a very key moment.
So then Murderbot is having an emotion.
Yes, it's a very big emotion.
And doesn't know how to react. So it is reacting with anger.
And it kills.
It says something like, it's good that I can have a dramatic breakdown or something like that.
And Murderbot also like kind of grabs all the drones away from them and kills some of the target drones. And then target 2's Gray's face went from surprised, then furious. It was kind of funny. This is the point where if I were a human, I might have laughed. And it's like, it is very funny because they were just mocking Murderbot for being angry. And it's just like, no, you guys were just in power. Like, you guys are idiots. And then casualty 1. I love that Murderbot starts calling it a casualty. Oh, deity, and then it's like it reached for something that was a weapon, and then had a projectile weapon that hit Murderbot, and Murderbot's like, that doesn't affect me at all. And so it ends up killing one of them, and the other flees. And so Murderbot like Oh, Casualty 1 and Casualty 2 were the bystanders. Apologies. So Murderbot like sends some drones after the second one that's running away, and the other two like grab Amena and it and like run to keep them safe from all of these beings. And they immediately know that Murderbot's a sec unit and assume that Amena is in control of the bot.
Right.
And so Murderbot goes with them, but like ends up sending some of the drones after two of the things and ends up killing them as well. And Murderbot ends up kind of taking control of the situation, and because it knows Art's schematic.
Right.
And so and Amena's like pretending that Murderbot has to listen to her because she doesn't quite understand why they think that she can control what Murderbot is doing.
Well, and they're Murderbot's just basically like, just like make it seem like you are
just
giving me orders. Like,
do what
they
I
don't
say,
understand what this is like.
Right.
And those people we learned are named Elytra and Ross.
Yes, Elytra and Ross. And Murderbot is kind of having like big emotions as it's trying to get them to safety. And it's like having all this thought about like Art wasn't there and Art left World Hoppers, and like it's being very overwhelmed with the fact that
because as it's like trying to like manage this whole situation, it's like, this is where I watched World Hoppers with Art, and then it's like all these things are like going through its thoughts right now, because it's like Art is dead.
But it can't stop moving, and so
it has to keep working and maintaining control of the situation and keeping Amena calm.
And so it like asks Ross and Elytra how many targets there are. They're like, targets, and Amena's like, it's the gray people, and Elytra is like, oh, there's 5, and Murderbot's like, I did a scan and there are 6 total targets. These people are useless. And so it talks about like how it kind of has to keep them away from all of these targets, and get them to a safe location. And again, like you said, it likes to like keep them contained. And so it like takes them down to the medical area, and it's trying to create a safe zone. And so they're like, the other two are like incredibly confused by what's going on. And Murderbot's like, stay here. It sends like out drones, and it's like telling Amena what to do. The other two are very confused, and Murderbot's like going and checking out things, and it can hear everything that Ross and Elytra are saying.
I mean, it's obviously going to keep recording.
Oh, exactly. And Amena's like asking them questions about like, I thought you guys were this crew, or I thought they were the crew on the ship, and they're like, no, our ship was a Barish Estranza transport. Like, we got taken on this ship. But they have like memory glitches where they think that they came on after Murderbot and Amena, and Amena's like, what are you talking about? That's not true. And Ross and Elytra are like, tell the sec unit to take orders from us. It's for the best. It seems like you don't have control of it. And
it's like,
Amena,
I don't have control. But...
yeah. And Murderbot kind of like asks them a question. It's like, why are you guys answering me? Because they're not listening to it. And Amena's like, my mom will be angry if you hurt them. Don't hurt them. And so Murderbot's like super frustrated. They say they don't know where the crew is. They're kind of useless. They don't know what's going on. They're super confused.
They have like a significant degree of memory loss.
Yes. And so Murderbot's like, well, I need to keep looking at stuff. And it leaves some drones and assigns them to Amena to like keep safe. And she's like, good, drones. It's what I've always wanted. Because Amena doesn't really care about technology at all. It doesn't really like, she's very much like, well, this sec unit is a person. So I don't know why they keep asking why I'm in charge of it. This makes no sense, because Amena hasn't been around outside into areas that see sec units as just like robots.
Yeah, it's only been on preservation, basically.
And Murderbot has so many feelings about walking around Art's corpse. Oh, it's so sad. And it's like another security update by Target Control System. Murderbot's like, there's way too much going on. I don't understand. And it realizes that the targets are all still trying to get into one of the main like areas that one of the targets had run into before Murderbot killed it. And it realizes that like there was no way to communicate with them, so they have no idea what's going on. They don't know Murderbot and the other three are out wandering around. So it kind of looks into the different areas that it can go into. It has like a little bit more full run of the ship at this moment. And Murderbot kind of hears Elytra and Ross talking to Amena about the sec unit. And it's like, you said your family owns us? And Amena's like, no, we don't own it. Murderbot's like, shut up. Tell them I'm under contract from the preservation survey. Like,
yeah, it's like, this is what they will understand. So just tell them.
And it's like, it doesn't want them to freak out or have like a bad or, stop believing them. And it's like, don't tell them that you're Dr. Mensa's daughter, because it doesn't trust these people because they're like.
And then Amena's like, I'm not stupid. It's like, well, a little bit.
A little bit. And then they also recognize that like they are like company contract people. So like Murderbot's just kind of like, they definitely don't understand what I am. And so Murderbot kind of goes looking for the bodies of the crew because it recognizes that none of the gray people were wearing the logos of Pietra, or what was the name of
Pavilion.
Sorry. And so it kind of sees like there are a couple anomalies. There aren't that many clothes. There aren't that many packs. Like it does find a crumpled up jacket from Ross and Elytra, but it doesn't find any other evidence that humans were there or that they were killed. And so and then it asks if they were on a survey, and she finds out that they were on an attempted recovery. They were assigned to work on lost settlements, and they can't say anything else because it's proprietary information. And Amena is so young. She's like, well, I'm not going to tell anyone. And it's like, well, we were on an assignment to recover a viable planet and one of the systems that were mapped before the corporation RIM were formed. And so they talk about like Murderbot kind of compares it to similar to like preservation, where like there used to be people who were sent out in like ships for a long time to go establish new planets, and they were supposed to be helped for a while, but if they get lost through like selling of planets and selling of like information, then oftentimes they can be lost. And so these two were looking for one of those lost colonies. And Amena's kind of horrified because she's like, abandoned colonies just because of money issues. It's an interesting premise. And then Murderbot's kind of like, preservation was such a like utopia where everyone always like has this stunning speech from the captain being like, no man left behind. And Murderbot's like, yeah, usually
this is not how everything works.
And then it says, if there had been a sec unit in the colony, there probably would have been a compelling reason why it had to stay behind on the dying planet. I don't actually believe that. Sometimes I believe that.
It's like, you believe that all the time, Murderbot. You've lived it.
I know. And so it's just so funny. And they talk about how reclaiming lost colonies is super big business, and terraforming equipment is usually still in place, and other things to salvage. And Amena's like, so did you find the lost colony? And she's like terrified and horrified. And they're all like, well, we were attacked on our way there. And Murderbot does find like a place that was deliberately trashed. It kind of just talks about trying to look through the display surfaces and trying to find out what all is going on. And Murderbot knows that Art loves its crew so much. And it's like, it can't be that the crew is dead, because if Art is dead, then like it can't have died like without its people being alive. And Murderbot finds this like weird algae smelling gray snotty thing, holes in like the engine room and everywhere else. And there's like a dip in its performance reliability. It smells really bad.
And Amena's like, what is that?
And they're like, it also is listening in where like Ross and Elytra are kind of saying like, you have to be careful. Sec units that have been altered to make it look less like a bot, but that doesn't change its programming.
They could go rogue at any moment.
And Ross is like, I know you think it's trying to protect you. And Amena's like, no, it's protecting me.
It's doing it.
And they're like, no, they're not reliable because of the human neural tissue.
Murderbot's like, he's not wrong.
But still offense. That's rude. Do you know how often I scream offense? That's rude.
Technically correct, but I don't like it.
No offense. So they kind of go back, and here's like Elytra saying, like, you're lucky it didn't turn on you while you're being held up on the ship. You must have been held up there for days and days, which is when Murderbot realizes, like, oh, they do not know what's going on.
Right.
And
their whole concept of time is thrown off.
Right. And so Murderbot comes in, and then Ross fires a weapon at it. And it's like, oh, great. For a human, his aim was great. And then
I thought that was funny. For a human, his aim was great.
Fortunately, it was an energy weapon and not a sec unit head busting projectile. It still fucking hurt. And so it takes out Ross, and Elytra is like, stop, don't do that. And Murderbot notes that it's running out of drones. And Ross is like kind of dropped down and doesn't really know what was going on. And like Ross kind of is having a mental breakdown where it's like, you can't trust any of them. If you can't, they control them. And he's just like, you don't any of them. And Amena's like, what are you talking about? And Murderbot's like, she has a point. This doesn't make much sense. It's counterintuitive for him to do this when I've been helping. And then Elytra immediately collapses and starts convulsing. Amena's freaking out. And she's like, they took some medication from the kit. Is that what's going on? And Murderbot's like, it's not a bad suggestion, but it's not it. And it looks like
odd.
Right. And then it knows that Ross looks dead now because he collapsed. And it's like, well,
Ross looks dead.
And so it kind of looks through some stuff. And it realizes that there is something in Ross's like spinal cord that was healed over. And it's like, oh, this is not good.
It's like, it looks creepily like a governor module.
Yes. And so it realizes that Elytra has one as well. And it's like, well, this was caused by implants, so we need to get it out of there. And Ross is dead. And like, and she's like, well, is it? Amena's like, it's kind of like an augment. And it's like, no, it's like an implant. Like, this is not what you think it is. And so it gets
at first, like, Amena was going to cut it out, and then it's just like, no, you do it. But I could have done it if I wanted to.
But I could if I wanted to. Yeah. I really could,
but I won't.
I really could cut it, but I won't. But I could. And then she's like, well, Elytra was complaining about her back being hurt. And so Murderbot takes out this like metal ring. It's very tiny. And it kind of looks like they botched the Ross's job, but they did a little bit better on Elytra, which is probably why she's still alive. And it's like, well, they may have been trying to control them. My drone is playing a recording of a conversation right now. Like, and oh yeah, because Murderbot had a drone inside the area where it had the dead people, and it had it just playing like one of the favorite episodes dialogue, and it's like, well, I'm putting it in there so that they're confused, they don't know what it's saying, right? And Amena's like, that's pretty clever. Murderbot is like getting really snippy because Amena's asking too many questions, and
Murderbot is still upset.
Yeah, and she's like, you're so touchy right now. And it's like, come on, they won't mind if we like get through this, and we have to get things out of here before it kills her. And Murderbot is like freaking out, and she's finally like at one point Elytra wakes up, and Murderbot is like looking at her skin. She looks not great. And Amena's like, we're helping you, don't worry. And they're kind of working together to get things somewhat back in.
Yeah, they have the med kit basically that they're relying on because
they can't use Art's med system because
it
was run by Art. And Murderbot's like, I tried not to see this as a remnant of Art still on the ship acting to save a human. And it ends up using the platform, the Med Securities platform, to help get it. And Amanda keeps talking to her, and it's like, or Amanda keeps talking to Murderbot. It's like, look, I'm sorry I didn't stick up for you enough with those people. They were bad mouthing you, and I should have said something. And and Murderbot's like, it's fine. And it's like, well, did you get hurt? Like, he shot you. And I was like, it was just an energy weapon. And Amanda's like, it was just an energy weapon. Like, she's
Like,
getting
it looked pretty bad, but okay.
And she's like, if you wouldn't be so angry with me, you would realize I was right. Murderbot's like, I'm not angry with you. It's like, no, I was definitely angry with her. So angry.
But it's just, they say something like, you look angry, and Murderbot says, that's just the way my face does. That's just something my face does sometimes.
I love Amanda. She goes, yeah, when you're angry. And she's like, I love this because it's the most like 2023 take of a kid. I should have said more when they were talking about you. It was just like my history and political consciousness class. They said we'd have these conversations. I just never believed that I'd hear it.
So funny.
And then Amanda's like, well, if you're not angry, what's going on? And Murderbot's like, look, my friend is dead. I lost my friend and I'm upset. This is not okay. And Amanda's like, your friend, somebody on the survey? And it's like, no, this transport, like, I think it's dead. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. And it's like terrible. And she's like,
maybe just take a seat, like, calm down.
Yeah, and she gets Murderbot to sit down to have its feelings, and it's like, and Murderbot,
she's like, you're emotionally compromised, and Murderbot's like, I am not.
You're emotionally compromised. She's like, won't it be easier to write code if you sit down? And
it's so like, I wanted to argue, but I maybe wanted to sit down.
So they kind of sit down, and it's like looking at all the different targets. It's figuring out what it needs to do. And it also notes that like right now it feels like an episode of its favorite show would make it feel better, but also it can't really do anything right now, which is also, well, and it's like, I also wanted to stay angry. And it's feeling messy, and it's like trying to figure out like it's sitting in Art's hold and trying to like interpret like Art's feats and everything. And it asks about display images from Art's bridge that it can't seem to understand. And it was a drone sealed in the control area, and it asks if Amena knows how to read them. It kind of talks about how it needs to get to like the target drones and needs to go to engineering to figure some things out on what's been happening. And Amena wants to go with it. And it's like, I had a confusing reaction to this. Exasperation, habitual suspicion, an overwhelming urge to kill anything that even thought about threatening her. And it's like, well, someone has to stay here with the human. And she's like, okay, you're right. And she starts crying. I know. And it feels terrible. And it's like, I owe her an apology.
So like, good job, Murderbot. You made her cry.
And she asks it not to stop talking to her on the feed. And it's like, I won't. I'll keep talking to you. And Amena's like, it's okay. You didn't mean to be mean. Like, and this is where Bartouage notices that Murderbot never talks about the company or talks about the company's name. And it's because we've talked about a little bit about trauma recovery treatments. I wonder if you've ever thought about taking one yourself. And it says session redacted.
Session redacted.
I know.
Interesting.
And so Murderbot gives Amena a view of what it's doing through the main feed video, and like she's confused by why it's shaky, and it's because it's Murderbot's eyes. So like Murderbot's really trusting her right now. When
she's like, this is creepy, like I'm looking through your eyes.
And then she's like, it feels like anyone could walk in at any second because it all looks pretty normal. And she also talks about how she's really relieved that Murderbot's there for her. And how she trusts it. And it goes, my Uncle Thiago's probably relieved that at least you're with me. And Murderbot's like, sure, Uncle doesn't trust me. She's like, yeah, he does. You saved him from those people who attacked the facility. And Murderbot's like, well, he did like the way I did it.
Yeah, he wasn't a fan of the way that it happened, but I guess.
I know. And she's like, well, things like abductions don't happen on preservation. It was a really big shot. Maybe he's a little bit jealous that like my mom trusts you. And she can't talk to us. And And Murderbot's like, all we talk about is like what happened and the fact that like she can't trust anyone with this because they don't understand. And she's like, well, they wouldn't have killed her. Like they wouldn't have gotten away with that. And Murderbot's like, are you kidding? They would have killed her.
Should have been dead.
But she also but it also recognizes like preservation's population still doesn't really understand assassination attempts, and they're pretty naive. And it's like, no, they would have done that. If they had managed to cut a deal with the company, they would have. But like then like its drones are encountering different target drones, they don't encounter anything, but it still has to keep looking. And it notices that there's like repair drones that are smashed on the deck. And Amanda notes that there's a lot of different setups from the ships she's seen. Looking, and she asks for it to look for a display somewhere. And Murderbot has a smell. It can smell more bad smell again. And it realizes that the engine is overtaken by that funky organic thing.
And this is where Amena's like, what the heck is that? Because you can see it now.
Yes.
I was misplacing though, and that happened.
Oh, you're fine. And Murderbot notices that they're like counting down to when the wormhole exit is supposed to be coming, but like it's way, way too fast. And it doesn't really understand what's going on. And it asks her to wake Elytra and ask her how long the ship has been in the wormhole, how long it took them to get from the system where they were captured to preservation territory. She tries to talk to Elytra, but Elytra has no idea what they're talking about. They're like, we never left the system. We've been here the whole time.
Right.
And it's like, no, I think it's taking us through this wormhole at a much faster rate than we're supposed to be able to go. And she's like, no, that's bonkos. The timer must be damaged. And then the engines make a weird noise between a groan and a clunk. And they had just come out of the wormhole and they don't really know what to do. And so Murderbot wants to destroy the alien remnant, but it knows that, like, luckily I had a second thought. And they're kind of trying to think through what to do. And she asks if they can make that drone in the control area move around, if they could see the display that will tell us where we are, or if there's a station or someplace we can try to send a distress signal. And Murderbot's like, that was not a bad idea.
I love when Murderbot acknowledges like other people can have good ideas.
And so it kind of looks around, and Amanda says like, oh, this is the local navigation. It doesn't say if we're close to a station or if there's a station at all. It's kind of confused. But then Murderbot is looking at the area and it sees a display Amanda was interpreting, but another diagram of art on a new display. An indicator showed an attached to the outside art's hole. And it's like, that can't be what I think it is. And it is, it like looks through its channels, and then it already all of a sudden hears errata through its channels being like, are you guys there? We're outside. We're stuck to the hole. And or Amanda says that, and they're like, who's we? And they're like, sec unit. Oh, and they're like, oh, versus here, Thiago and Rathi. We are able to reach the base ship after jettison, so we just got on here. And so they decide to go try to get them. And so and Murderbot realizes that the hole on the ship is like probably terribly beat up.
They're like, well, the pod is damaged. So.
And so they decide to like go get them. And Murderbot like sends out a diversion. Oh, look, a diversion. A bioluminescent rock, algae on a rock. A diversion. And Murderbot realizes that their safe zone is about to be compromised. They need to deal with it. And it asks to go to Errata and the others and let them in. And Murderbot kind of sends her drones to help her through it. And they kind of know that there's something wrong with the safe pod. They're trying to get this extraction done. And Murderbot realizes that like the targets probably realized what had happened now that they're out of the wormhole. So their target drones kind of now active. They don't have as much like safety subterfuge as they had before. And Murderbot's like, I need to kill these people to make sure that Amanda gets through. And then Murderbot starts taking out these target drones, and Target 5 is there, and it's like fighting, and then something happens.
Whoops.
Oopsie daisies. The comm hidden in the pocket under its ribs. The comm that Art gave it pinged its internal feed with a message, and all it says is Eden. And that was Murderbot's old name. So
that's the name that it was using when it was like pretending to be a security consultant.
Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden it has an idea of what is in that internal comm unit. And so it's like, well, this could be a trick. It could be exactly the kind of trick that these sec units would do. But it was like, well, but there is a chance that Art could be somewhere. And it looks at a compressed video clip of World Hoppers from a climactic episode where one of the main characters' minds has been taken over by a sentient brain virus. I know. And the story was really much better than it sounds. But in that moment, when the character said, I am trapped in my own body, and I was like, I need to get up to Art's Bridge immediately. This could be something. And so it's running. It's trying to get there as fast as it can. And Amena has like her drone escort with Arata over Santiago, so it feels a little bit better. And they're all like, where are you going? Murderbot's like, get to medical, get out of here. And so it's running through Art's corridors. It's trying to fight through all these different systems to get to the bridge because it really needs to get there. And Amena's like freaking out because it's watching Murderbot do all these things, and it knows that, or she knows that it got shot. And she bolts away with her drone stuff coming after her. And she's so cute. She's trying to save Murderbot, and
she really cares about other people. I mean, Amena is very caring about Murderbot's well-being, and also like Elytra and Ross and everything. And so, yeah, I really like that.
It's very cute. And so Murderbot is trying to like get to it
before it runs out of drones.
And so then it gets to the bridge display, and it's getting shot at a ton, and it's not doing well. And it's like, Amena, get out of here. You know, these people are dangerous. And Amena's like, but where are you? I need to make sure you're okay. And
because it cut the visual feed.
Yes. And it like gets the clip into it runs the program that Art had hidden inside of it, and it's looking for a passcode, and it's like, well, shit. And it's like, well, it directed this to Eden, and it's a fake name I'd use with human clients, a name Art had never called me. And so it's like, my real name is private, but the name Art called me wasn't something humans could say or even access. It was my local feed address, hard-coded into the interfaces laced through my brain. And so it puts in that passcode, and it says, in case of an emergency, run. And so it starts running that, and it says, reload in progress. Please stand by. And below, the targets come in, and they're about ready to attack Murderbot. And then it hears Art's real voice saying, drop the weapon. So Art is alive, and the crowd cheers. Yay! And then it kills a lot of the people. And it's like, you are aboard the Perihelion, registered teaching and research vessel. And Murderbot's like, don't hurt my humans. It's like, I'm not going to hurt your humans, you idiot. And it's like, you're using the public feed. Everyone can hear you. And Art's like, so are you. And you're leaking on my deck. And so, and Amena's like, we need to get it to medical. And so Art's like, I already got a Gertie. So Art is like nonplussed at this moment. And it's like, don't worry. The intruder's dead. We're fine. And so they're all kind of freaking out. And Murderbot is like, Art, you did this. You sent those assholes to kidnap my humans. And Art goes, no, I sent them to kidnap you.
Like, and you are so manipulative. Oh my gosh. Art.
And Murderbot's like performance bottoms out. And so it's like, oh, great. Another catastrophic failure. And so it hears like some ambient stuff. And Art's like, don't worry. Everything's going to be all right. We're restructuring everything. The restart should correct things. And Murderbot is like, stop talking to my humans. And Art goes, make me. I love Art so much.
Their relationship is the best.
I love them so much. And so Murderbot is like so upset with Art, calls it a manipulative fucker. It says it says it has to watch 5 minutes of episode 174 of Rise and Fall of Sanctuary Moon. Did that work? No, it didn't. It checks its input and it's finally like getting rebooted. It realizes that like Arata was upset seeing Murderbot on the ground like that. And Art notices that there's another human. And it's like, I got rid of all the people who shouldn't be here. And it's like, there's only Elytra. Russ is there, but he's dead. And they're like, can you tell us who you are, person who's talking? And Amena's like, no, that's the transport ship. It's Art's friend. And they're like, really? You're the transport? And Art's like, yeah. And it's like, I don't think bot pilots talk like this. And they're like, it can't be a bot.
Which Murderbot's like, ha.
And so Art is like, I'm still reinitializing after force shutdowns and deletion. I've prioritized restoring the med system to full function. When they ask like, who attacked you on your survey facility, what happened? And they're all like, well, he just avoided the question.
It's avoiding all the questions.
And so they're like asking it questions. And Murderbot is very upset. And Thiago's like, don't worry, Murderbot will be fine, because Amena is still like, are you sure everything's okay? And they're all like, well, I'm glad the sec unit kept you safe. It's so good. And then so many things happen in this book, Laura.
I know. This is a big one.
I know. I needed to write this down and I ran out of time, guys. Well, I'll be better next week. And it's like, Art is so dramatic. It's making a conscious and capable affecting events during the attack on our facility and base ship. Like, so it's manipulated the entire situation. And they're all freaking out because the transport can talk. And it's like, I don't suppose you could call it a bot pilot. And Art's like, I don't suppose you could. So Murderbot talks about like how much better Art is than it is at like video effects and like getting through everything. But they have this like video link over to medical so they can see Murderbot as it gets up, and it's like, fuck you, Art.
Yeah.
And then it's like, how are you doing? And it's like, I'm fine. And it was like, Murderbot's like, where's my jacket? And Art is like, I'm redoing it for you. It's fine. And
probably getting the logo off.
Yep. And it's like, don't worry, let's take that up later. Transport, will you answer our questions? And Art's like, that depends on the question. And Art's like, the humans think I'm an asshole. Wait until they meet you. And it's like, I admit I'm a little worried. Rathi muttered to Amena, I admit I'm a little worried right now. Because, at that point, Murderbot's also like, I'm not speaking to you right now. And it keeps like blowing up at Art. And Art's like, that counts as speaking.
Yeah, it's like, I thought we weren't talking.
And it's like, Amena told him Sec Unit said bot pilots can kill people. Art said Sec Unit exaggerates.
Art is so good at pushing Murderbot's buttons.
I know. And so talks about like the system had a numerical designation assigned by a corporation. And so we like went in to make sure that there wasn't a hostile takeover and the colony's location was lost. And it was probably inhabited. And it's like, oh, so these hostiles were the ones who inhabited it. And it's like, probably her circumstances suggest it. Yeah, that was sarcastic. And so they kind of talk about how it was taken over, how like Art usually goes into these areas where they have abandoned colonies to make sure like the people are okay. It usually uses its crew to help reinitialize like some different things. And it must have gotten taken over during that time. It lost a huge chunk of its memory. And then the hostiles came on, threatened its crew, so it couldn't do anything. And so it sent Art through the wormhole and then immediately killed it. But Art saved a backup copy and hid it where only a trusted friend could find it. And again, Murderbot's like, oh, fuck you. And it's like, that still counts as speaking.
Yeah. So basically, like, Art sent out like a distress call through like saying, oh, there's this special weapon that you guys need. And they went after Murderbot thinking they were getting some kind of special weapon. And that was all just like Art's way of getting Murderbot to come back.
And like put it back in.
Reboot it.
And it's like, why did you want to kidnap the sec you did? It's like, well, I needed someone to kill the hostiles. Like, I built a trap and they fell into it. And it's like, well, who are they? And Art's like, I don't know the answers to those questions. And it's like, well, their appearance could have been the result of genetic or cosmetic manipulation, but if there's like an alien remnant that contaminated them, they could have been from a colony where that happened. And it's like, well, if Thiago's like, well, if anyone had been left alive, we could have asked them questions. And Murderbot's like, why is this always about me?
Poor Murderbot.
I know. And so it also talks about when Art first talks to all of them. I love it because Murderbot's like, he sounds incredibly threatening if you don't know it. Like,
right. And they're like, was that a subtle threat? And they're like, it wasn't subtle.
And then it was kind of like, my memory archive was destructive. I'm still attempting to reconstruct it. And it said, is your comm shut down? And it's like, it was not an attack launched via the comm because I'm not an idiot. It's like, well, I'm the one who helped you get back. And so they're just like fighting, and everyone in the room is super uncomfortable with the fact that
this is really awkward.
These
constructs
are fighting against each other. And they kind of ask Elytra, like, are these gray people the ones that your team was looking for? And she's just like, not really sure what they're talking about. And Murderbot's like, I need to get back to my, Art is like, they had my crew. I needed help because Murderbot could handle the situation. And Thiago was like, well, that attack on our base ship could have killed us all. And Art was like, well, that was a chance I was willing to take. Art was like, my people were in danger. I let the risk happen. And Murderbot has a rage blackout because it's so mad and walks off. And so it's sitting in the bathroom, and after 27 minutes and 12 seconds, Rothie comes in or like taps on the door and is like, can I come in? And Murderbot's like, do you have my jacket? It talks about how like Art's been trying to ping it since it left. And Murderbot's ignoring Art because it's really mad at it. And
also, can I just point out that I love these moments when Murderbot is like, it was 27 minutes and 12 seconds, or it'll be like, it was a long response. It was 3 seconds. And it was like, okay.
And so it also like turns on an episode so it can pretend that it's ignoring Art.
So it's like, it looks like I'm doing something if Art's trying to get a hold of me.
But it also talks about how like Art is like so complicated that like it can be incredibly patient, but also incredibly impatient.
It's like, I know the perfect way to mess with it.
So Murderbot like cleans itself off. It lets Rothie and Amena in to come talk to it. And it says it can hear anything you say anywhere aboard. Murderbot says that, and Rothie is like, yeah, I'm kind of
used to people listening in on us.
It's you
cough,
again. You're the problem here. And Rothie goes, so you have a relationship with this transport?
It's like, no.
Murderbot is like, no. And they're like, that's not what I mean. And Amena's like, is that possible?
No.
Like, no. And Rothie's like, you have a friendship. And it's like, no. And Rothie's like, not anymore. And so it's mad. Like, Murderbot's so mad at Art. And Rothie asks if Murderbot has ever made friends who are bots. And Murderbot thinks about Mickey. And it's like, it thinks about how Mickey had said, like, I have human friends, but I never had a friend like me before. And it's like, no, it's not like that. Not like it is between humans. So this is a very complicated discussion between like how it can be a friend. And this is where it's like Perihelion is not its name. I call it Art because of asshole research transport. That's an anagram.
It's an anagram.
that's not an anagram. And Rothy's
Whatever.
like, regardless. It's like, well, neither of you is quite sure how to have a relationship with one another because you usually don't. And Murderbot's like, do we have to call it a relationship? And it's like, well, you don't like friendship, so Murderbot goes mutual administrative assistance.
Because I Googled it.
And then the lights fluctuate to tell it that Art does not agree with that.
And it's like, quit trying to talk to me.
And both of them are like, it's not trying to talk to it. I can only imagine like lights flickering like barely imperceptibly that only Murderbot would
Only
notice.
Murderbot can tell.
And
that
it's like Art's gaslighting Murderbot into getting upset, making it look ridiculous. That was all I could picture.
That's what I pictured too, where it was just like, quit trying to talk to me. And everyone else is just like, okay.
What's going on? And so they agree to help Art get its crew back. And Murderbot's like, that's not an arrangement. It's holding us hostage and it won't let us leave. And they're like, yeah, but we don't really have another choice. We like need to get out here. We are lost in this system. And so like, because we're lost on this system that was like claimed as going to this area that was claimed as salvage by a corporate, like we are violating the law just by being here, so we can't like ping anything to get help. And Amena is like, we could totally just ask for help, and they're both like, no, we couldn't. And then Rothy's like, I hate the corporate rim. And Murderbot's like, me too. And so Amena is worried about Murderbot being on the corporate rim because of like who it is, and it's like, no, your mom owns me, we have legal documents. And she's like, no, she doesn't. And Dr. Bartwaj, they're all like, yeah, we have these, like, yeah, we have to keep this. And Amena is like horrified by that, like, and so they need a little bit of time for Art to make like changes to the engine system. And it's like we have preparation and plans to make. And he's like, so you'll come out to the bathroom now? And Murderbot's like, yes, because Art is lying. And it says this time when the lights fluctuated, it wasn't sarcastic. So Murderbot comes back in, and the OWWR is looking at the implant that they took from Elytra. And they ask if like Murderbot's ready to talk now. And Rothy is like, not really. And Art had said that it came to this area because it was answering a distress call, but Murderbot's like, that's not true. And Thiago's kind of like, yeah, I was wondering about what you guys do. So like, what goes on this vessel? And Murderbot's like, I know, because this is supposed to be a teaching and research vessel, but like there's obviously been no students on this ship and there's no cargo module attached. So what's it doing here when it got the distress call? And Art is kind of like pissed at Murderbot for like pointing out the logical like lies that it's been doing.
That's none of your business.
And Arata's mad because it's making Art frustrated, and they're like putting it into a dire situation. And so they're like kind of all talking about it, and Art is like, everything that happened before my crew is captured is irrelevant. And Art's like, Murderbot's like, you made it my business when you kidnapped me. And it's like, well, leave whenever you want. The door's right there. And Murderbot's like, you've got to be kidding me. And it points out that Art is upsetting Amena by keeping a secret. And it notes that like Art has grown fond of Amena with the way it speaks to her.
It likes teenagers.
It likes teenagers. It likes little ones, Laura, more than big ones. We brought it back. And so she asked, and she's like, well, I'm pretty scared. This is like really confusing. And I feel like I don't want to pretend this isn't bothering me. And so Art is like, I have to violate my crew's confidentiality agreement in order to answer this question. And Murderbot's like, well, you kidnapped us. So that violated my contract with my humans, a contract I made with them myself. And it's like telling Art, like, I have control over my own life now, and you violated that. So that's like a violation of our friendship and everything. So Art considers it, but it doesn't want Elytra to hear what's going on. And so it pings everyone else, and they're like, it's like, get rid of the company person. And so they get Elytra set up in the other room so that they don't have to have her find out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And Art's like, yeah, I'm a teaching vessel. I am a research vessel, but my crew does go to these anti-corporate, or they are part of an anti-corporate organization that goes into these like areas that have recently been bought out. And we provide them with the information that shows that they are actually free planetary existence with loopholes in their contract. And Murderbot was like, so you forged those.
Right.
And it's like, well, some need just a little bit of push. And so it's kind of like, well, they're kind of like, well, if these people were from that planetary system, why would they try to take over if you guys were trying to help them? And it's like kind of a mystery on what's happening. And it's like, my crew's mission was to ascertain whether it was inhabited. It obviously looks inhabited. And Murderbot's still mad at Art because like, it's like, none of this makes up for the fact that you kidnapped me. And it's like, well, do you remember what happened? And it's like, well, I'm still reconstructing it. And Murderbot was like, it's like, well, here's a timeline of everything that happened. And Murderbot was like, I was just making one of those. And it points out that like Art only made the timeline based on Art's own perception of things. Didn't put any of Murderbot's stuff, that like all the things that Murderbot did. And like Amena points out that there was memory loss with all the parties. And it's like, well, maybe the gray people like were affected by alien remnants. And they're just very confused on exactly what's going on. They also talk about the language that they were using. They have to go figure out what type of language they were speaking. And Murderbot has videos of that, so that's helpful. And Thiago is like, there might be really deadly alien contamination incidents that we could research to see what's going on. And they kind of talk about how awful corporations are.
Yeah.
And so Art was kind of like, well, they likely came from within the system, and the alien people. And then Murderbot is like, how do you know who was or wasn't on board you when all these memory issues happened? You have like a really weird memory. You seem to have blocks in this. There could have been other salvage group invaders and colonists. And it's like upsetting Art because it's kind of pointing out all the gaps that Art might have. And like all the others seem to be pretty on board with the fact where it's like, Art just got rebooted. It doesn't know what's happening. Maybe like, cut it some slack. And Art is like, Sec Unit's earlier statement that said I lie a lot was untrue. I obviously cannot reveal information against the interests of my crew unless circumstances warrant. And so it's like offended. And it's like, I want an apology. So it's obviously just upset that like Murderbot's been going in on it. And Murderbot's like, I'm not going to apologize for that. And Rathi goes, anyone who thinks machine intelligence don't have emotions needs to be in this very uncomfortable room right now. I love
so
it
great.
So much. And Art's like, I did what I had to do. And Murderbot goes, I'm not talking to you on the feed. You're not my client, and you're not my. And it's like, can't say that it's not your friend.
I was gonna say friend.
And then Art's like trying to give it access to its camera so it knows like it's not hiding anything and like seeing the entire
like,
ship.
Stop being nice.
And it's like, I think you need to get, and Amena goes, I think you need to give Sec Unit some time. And it's like, right, that's all the situation needed. And it's like, is it talking to you on a private channel? And Amena is like, well, it's just, and it's like, stop talking to my people. It's getting super possessive. And they're like, hey, let's stop. This is unproductive. Like, Art, you need to stop pressuring Sec Unit. I know you're upset about your crew and being deleted. And this has all been terrible and confusing, but Sec Unit is upset too. And Art was like, I was not yelling. And Arata's like, of course you were. And everyone's just trying to mediate between these two constructs. And so they're like, okay, we're going to go break up and like figure some stuff out. And like, everyone's going to go into their corners and perihelion. Like, this seems like a good like goal, right? And it's like, yeah, for now.
For now.
And we will leave it there with two very upset constructs. Just wanting the best for each other. Now. I'm so glad Art is back.
Me
It's
too.
my favorite.
I actually really like this reaction from Murderbot, and it to me is a lot of just like, you scared me so much I thought you were dead.
I know. I can't wait to talk about like all the feelings of these characters in 2 weeks where we like go deep diving. I have so many tabbed pages where it's just like
perfect.
If anyone thinks that if anyone thinks that bots don't have emotions, they need to be in this very uncomfortable room right now. I love that line so much.
Great.
Because you can like, I don't know how Martha Wells does it, but you can feel the dialogue on these pages. Like the way they're just sitting there like, I am so uncomfortable right now. Yes. I was like, yes, I feel your discomfort.
We all feel it.
I have not finished this book yet because
I'm close to finishing it.
I'm so excited to finish this with you, Laura. Guys, join us next week for the second half of this novel. Hannah will have better notes next week, I promise. This one was like dense. This is a dense novel. It is dense. A lot goes on.
It's not that big, but still a lot happens.
I just like, you have to pay attention to every page, and there's so much going on. And I love that art's back. I love that we have Murderbot. And we're about to go rescue a crew, Laura. I hope you're ready. Murderbot.
We are all a little bit Murderbot.
I hope you guys are ready to come back to us and talk more about Taylor Swift's #1 fan, Murderbot.
Likely. It's likely.
Yes. Make sure you're reading the second half of the novel, and make sure you're rating, reviewing, and subscribing to us. Reviewing, and subscribing is a great way to bring new people to the podcast. We've had some newer people come on lately.
Yeah,
it's awesome to get more people to learn all about, like, Indie Palooza. Laura and I are reading self-published and indie authors this month.
Yay.
We are also,
and we just love interacting with people.
Yes, we are also, I need to make the post. I think it's going to be coming up sometime this week for Indie Mission Round 3.
Yay.
We have
I'm
a couple
so excited for
books,
this,
but a couple more of the like ones that we've had from last time. So it's exciting to see new faces and old faces. So we will be voting. We are doing the knockout rounds again because everyone said that they love the knockout rounds. So we will be doing them. I will probably do another random matchup because just easier on me, honestly, than like being like, these two books could possibly go together. I haven't read either of them, but we'll see. So we'll probably do randomize again because that was a ton of fun for me too, because then I didn't have to like pick which one went up against each other. So we'll be voting on those. So keep an eye out for that, and make sure you check out OWWR.com, OWWR pod, for some great book reviews this month. And check out us on Twitter and Instagram at OurPod. And, if you guys have a little bit of extra stuff, you can join our Discord, our pod, and you can join our Patreon. We've had some great episodes on Law and Order and kissing the coronavirus.
Was that a great episode? I don't know.
But it was something, guys. It was a great review of a 16-page novel. And so make sure you're listening to all of that. We're getting out great content, guys. We love doing this with you. And we just can't wait to talk more Murderbot next week. Guys, we only have like 2 more books about this, and then one does come out in September or November. So we will, of course,
later this year
do a little mini series.
We will return to Murderbot.
We will return, but we only have a couple more of this. So
I know
it's getting intense, guys. And then Indie Mission is like right around the corner. So hopefully by today I will have the Indie Mission voting up. So we will see, but that's the goal. But yeah, just can't wait, guys.
Thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate it.
We can't wait to join you guys next week to finish up this novel plot line. But Laura, it's good talking to you. Bye.
Bye.